I do want to show you guys one thing here because this isn't normally part of my slideshow for Gems, but I figured she was going to work the grandchild thing in there somewhere, and I just felt like I needed to show proof that I really do make the cutest babies. There's two other equally gorgeous, but they're 13 and they're starting to get camera shy. So, Gems, quick show of hands before I launch into stuff here. Has anyone here seen the video of me presenting this in Copenhagen on YouTube? Awesome. You saw it. Okay. I'm really, really glad to hear that because if everyone had seen it, I would be like, oh, any questions? Now I can plagiarize myself to my heart's content and not bore anyone, hopefully. So, Gems was born out of being a Touch for Health instructor for the past 8 years. What I found would happen inevitably is when we would get to level 4, people would leave level 4 and they were pumped, right? Your level 4 students, they leave and they're excited. They're going to open up clinics. They're going to change the world. They're going to heal everybody they know. They're going to do all of these things. And then you talk to them a few months later and you go, how are you? How's it going? What have you been doing since I saw you last? And they're like, well, they shuffle their feet and they look down and they get embarrassed or they get defensive. And you go, what's happened? How did you go from being so excited about these tools and balances that you have to being really kind of discouraged and despondent and not really knowing what you're doing with it? And what I found was inevitably one of two things had happened. One, they had set up their business and they had put out their shingle and they had their certificates on the wall and they wait. And no one's knocking on our door. And so after a couple months of that, they start to get discouraged or they start to feel like, well, my community doesn't support this kind of work. Or there isn't a call for what I do here. What I do here is too weird for the people in my neighborhood, so they're not into it at all, right? And so they decide to go get more training or they decide to go back to their day job or whatever it is that's happened for them. The other thing that happens is they do have clients. So they have family, friends, acquaintances, people who have started coming in to see them. But when people come in to see us, do you ever get somebody who walks into your office and goes, oh, you know what I really need right now? I need a sound balance with some metaphors. That's what I need today. Boy, could I ever use one of those. I really feel like I could use a 42 fix as you go. You know, could you go ahead and do that for me? No, people don't do that. People come in and they say, my knee hurts, fix it. I have arthritis. I have fibromyalgia. I have relationship problems, right? Now, we know that doing a balance would help with any of these things, but people don't always see the connection. If I come into your office and I say, I have arthritis, and you do some muscle balancing, I might not feel the results right away. There might be an emotional cause underneath it, but I might not be willing to look at that right now. And so they don't always see the connection between the things that you're doing and what they came in for. So they don't always feel like you're addressing what they came in to address. So they don't always see the value of your book. Okay? And so that's the other thing that would happen is that people would get discouraged in that they don't know when to pull out each of these tools. By the time you finish Touch for Health 4, you have all of these amazing tools in front of you, but when do you know what to do, right? When do you pull out a metaphor balance? When do you pull out a 28? When do you pull out reactives? When do you make the weird sounds, right? And so what we needed was some kind of a system to help people go through it in a more linear fashion that would be easier for them so that they could become effective practitioners and really address the needs of the client and feel really comfortable that whatever was coming up for them was going to be what was priority for that person at that time. Okay? So enter GEMS. GEMS stands for Goal Element Load Stack. We talk about taking Touch for Health to the next level. So what we've done with this course is we've taken the 4 levels and all of the amazing tools that you learn in the 4 levels, the hundreds of pages that you get in the Touch for Health Complete Manual, combine them with a little bit of our own stuff, and put it into something that's really easy to use in everyday real sessions. So GEMS is designed to take students and make students into practitioners, and to take practitioners and help them integrate all the modalities under an easy umbrella. Because sometimes you've taken a lot of different courses, but again, it's hard to know when to do what, and what would be the most effective use of your time with your client. GEMS is also designed to be a bridging class between Touch for Health and what we would consider higher levels of specialized kinesiology. Why is that important? Well, if you've ever taken any of those other courses, like I'm sure most people here have, LEAP, SIPs, 7GTs, different brain integration kind of courses, there's certain things that are assumed that you know when you walk into that class. So the prereq for almost all of the SK courses is Touch for Health 3. And the reason why it's Touch for Health 3 is because that's when you learn this. And you put things into circuit retaining mode, and now you're able to store information. What SIPS doesn't teach you are things like moding and stacking. Or sorry, what Touch for Health doesn't teach you are things like moding and stacking. It's assumed that you know those things when you walk into those classes. But I know from my experience, I went from being a very good Touch for Health student and actually being an instructor to going into a SIPS class. And people are doing this thing with their hands, and they're doing this thing, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here, so you kind of fake it. And look to see what's happening until some kind soul takes pity on you and teaches you something. Now, as an instructor of SIPS, if I'm looking at my Touch for Health students that are coming into my class, I don't have time in SIPS 1 to stop and teach them how to do moding and stacking, right? There's enough material in those other classes. You can't take an hour to go over this stuff with your other students. So where are they going to learn this? Are they picking it up organically through what the other practitioners are doing? They might. I did, but it took a while. This class would be a really great bridging for those students so that they actually have the tools when they go into those other classes to feel really competent and confident and able to just take on what's in that class and not feel like they're having to catch up. Practitioners who are stuck and need to move ahead a little bit. So there's a lot of people in our industry that have been doing this for a few years, and they've been working on their friends and their family, and maybe they have a couple clients that come and see them, but they want to do more. They want to make this their real career, not have it be the thing that they do on the side, or the thing that they do on the table in the living room and no one's at home, right? It's something that needs to be pushed forward. So how do you go from this being sort of the thing that you play with to being your actual career? And this is going to help with that as well. So when we're looking at the actual GEMS protocol, in class we talk a lot about things like goal setting and do a little bit of a review of the goal setting rules from Touch for Health. We talk about the 5 elements and go into those a little bit deeper and some of the energies involved in 5 elements. We talk about Dr. Alan Birrell and the history of finger moding and hand notes and why those work and how they can be used. And of course stacking, the dance of the demented goldfish, and getting people really comfortable with being able to put things into circuit and hold in that circuit while they're doing their muscle testing. Now I'm flipping through these really fast because you guys know this stuff and I don't need to teach anybody here how to do loading and stacking and more information about elements. But we do take like all morning to go through this so that people are really, really comfortable in class with how this works. So here's the heart of the GEMS program. This is our flowchart. I'm hoping everybody can see it from the back, okay? We'll go over it a little bit together here, and if you need to see it closer up before you leave, let me know. All right, so we have GEMS laid out through the middle, and at the top you'll see there it says goal. So in Touch for Health, we work primarily with verbal goals. People state what it is that they want to work with, right? So I have the energy at the end of the day to play with my kids. I have healthy, clean, smoke-free lungs. I have the best golf game in my city. Whatever it is that is your goal. We're used to stating it verbally. In GEMS, we look at another level of that, which is that sometimes your body has an agenda. Your body has a goal as well. And that's something that doesn't get taken into account in the Touch for Health program. But if you come in to see me as a client and you come in saying, I want to work on my relationship with my husband, or I want to work on feeling confident at work, that's great, and I'm happy to work on that with you. If you have a virus, your body might go, you know what? Your relationship problems are not my concern right now. Right now we need to get your immune system built up so that you're feeling better and you're able to do what you need to do. Maybe there's something else going on physically that needs to be addressed first. So it allows us to bring that aspect in as well, and to simply acknowledge, oh, your body is smarter than I am, and your body knows what you need, so we're going to allow it to go ahead and run the show for us today. Then you go into the element. So what you're doing is you're finding an indicator muscle using whatever technique you like to use. You know, you can be doing your anterior deltoid muscle testing, you can be doing the brachioradialis testing, whatever indicator feels comfortable for you. And whatever pre-checks you like to do, I should have taken for granted in this flowchart that you already know those, they're part of your normal routine, and you're going to go ahead and use those. So using your indicator muscle, you're just going to start going through your elements to see which one creates an indicator change. Okay? And I know that central and governing aren't technically an element, but there is an energy that's happening in those meridians, and we need to acknowledge that that might be where the stress is. So they get included with the elements in this. Okay? Once you have an element stacked in, you go for the mode. So we're doing really, really simple finger moding in this class. Structure, chemistry, emotion, electrical. Right? I'm not getting into the really complicated ones or anything like that. We're keeping it really basic, baby steps. Okay? So you've put your element in, you've put your mode in, and you've stacked that information. What do you do with it now? Well, in your GEMS binder when you're in class, you're given scan sheets. And the scan sheets break it down by element and by type of stress. So let's imagine for a moment that what's come up for the client is that there's a fire stress in the structure mode. So you simply flip to your scan sheets and you start moving down your list of the ones that are in the red. So you know you're able to check, is this an organ stress? Is this a muscle stress? Is it posture? Is it tissue? What is it that's actually creating that stress? And you're able to stack that information into circuit. Then at that point, if you're looking at your flow chart, you can ask deeper. Meaning, do I need more information on this, right? Is it enough to say that it's muscular stress, or do I need to go specifically and look at what muscle is it? And the muscles that fall into the fire element are listed there for you, and the page numbers are cross-referenced with the Touch for Health complete manual. So that it's really easy for people who don't maybe have everything memorized. Maybe they just come out of a level 4 class and they're like, shoot, I don't remember how to do a Costello's test. They can take a look at that page and they can see what that looks like in their book. Okay? If you get to the point where you don't need any deeper information on that stress, then you go to more and you see whether you need more stresses stacked in. So this is showing you here the other stress sheet. So we have the emotion stresses under fire and the electrical stresses. So once you put that in, following that flow chart around more, if it comes up more, and we teach more mode as well, then you just go back up to the top here where it says element, and you check your elements again. Central governing, fire, earth, metal, water, wood, right? Sometimes you're going to have several stresses come up within the same element, and maybe there's a big issue in that element that really needs to be balanced and resolved. Sometimes things come up, and we've all had that experience, right? Being in session and things come up and you're like, I have no idea why this is coming up for you right now. This does not make any logical sense to me. And what I usually say in that case is, I just trust your body's smarter than I am. And it knows why this is coming up, and we're just going to go with it. So you stack in your element again, your mode again, right? And you just go through your scan sheets. So the scan sheets I just showed you for fire, you have those in your binder for each element so that it's really easy to just find what you're looking for. We do color-coded tabs, right? We're keeping it really simple. And so once you get to a point where when you ask if you can correct, you get a yes, well, then you have the same thing with your corrections. You go in and you check what element are we correcting in, what mode are we correcting in, right? And then the corrections that are available to you through your Touch for Health theory are shown in these scan sheets. So let's imagine that we need a fire structure correction. It could be neurolymphatic points, it might be origin and insertion points, it might be a muscle balance, it might be a wheel or a 5-element balance, a time of day, a posture analysis. You might need to do something as simple as gaits, right? So this allows you to go through and just see what is the priority correction for everything that is currently online. And it's possible that after you do a correction and you go more, do I need another correction, that you come up with a second one. But because we're using priorities, I find that actually usually one correction is going to do it. And it's going to allow you to move through things really quickly and easily. Now, the other thing that's brilliant about this is that you can slot other things that you know into these same categories. So for instance, if you're an aromatherapist, you can put aromatherapy in your chemistry. I've just written the word in there as a reminder. You don't have a lot of knowledge of aromatherapy from Touch for Health classes, right? But if you have that, and you can stop and think, oh, I bet aromatherapy would come up. You can muscle test if it does. Use your own knowledge to go ahead and find that correction, right? If you have other structural corrections, go ahead and use them. It allows you to move easily from one modality to another, right? I had a really interesting experience in June because I was teaching a SIPS 1 class. And half of my students had taken GEMS with me the month before, and the other half hadn't. Now, the half that hadn't, this was not their first rodeo. Like, they had all kinds of other modalities under their belts. One of them had several levels of LEAP, 7 G keys, lots of really solid corrective techniques, right? But SIPS 1 day 1, you don't learn any corrections. You learn a protocol for removing stress, but there's nothing that really ties it up. You're sort of expected to have corrections from your other classes that you can go ahead and use in order to finish up that balance. And what I found was that my GEM students, once they had done one of the stress and done their amperage and resistance and the impulse step, and they needed a correction, they just got out their binders, went through their scan sheets, they did a correction, done, boom, finished, right? The other students floundered. They couldn't figure out what to use as a correction because it wasn't laid out for them in a really easy way. And that was a huge aha moment for me because I had always thought of GEMS as being something people would do in between Touch for Health and other classes. It hadn't occurred to me that it would be really powerful for people who already had those other classes to be able to use it to integrate and assimilate all their information. So that felt really great as a teacher to go, oh, this is something that would be valuable to all of these people, not just the people right coming out of their level 4 class. Showing the other corrections for the fire element and how that's laid out in the scan sheets. So that's basically day 1 of the GEMS class. We go through that basic structure, we go through the flow chart, and we start doing some balances on each other using this protocol. Day 2 is all about business. What's in a name? So, again, getting into that business component, right? Sometimes the information is good, the practitioner is good, the marketing not so good, right? And so we need to look at the fact that as an industry, we're really bad at marketing. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, right? And maybe some of you feel like you're exceptions to that rule, but in general, we're not good at putting ourselves out there. And part of that comes from the fact that really the people that end up in our industry, we're usually very heart-centered people, right? We want to help people, we want to hug, we want to take care of everybody. Number crunching, not so good. Right? Accounting skills, usually not high on the list. So again, there's always exceptions to this, but in general, wouldn't it be great if we had a little bit of help in figuring out how to put together some of those aspects of actually getting your business up and running that are a little bit more difficult for people, right? So we do talk about things like a business name. We talk about things like branding and logos, which are scary for people. And usually what I show are several different examples of branding. Now, all I'm showing in this presentation here, because it's what I have permission to show in front of a big group, are my own pictures and branding that I use on my websites and that sort of thing. But branding is interesting because it creates a feeling for people. And in our industry, there's a huge range and spectrum of practitioners. There are some people that are very clinical, right? And they go to work in a suit and tie, and they work in a really clinical kind of way, and everything feels very medical, and that's how they like to work. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you get the people who are barefoot and don't actually make appointments, and they just kind of float in, and they wait and see what happens, and both are okay, and both are going to attract their own clientele. So how do you market that authentically so that you find the people that you need to find? So the people who you need to find you, right? So this, for instance, is a picture from one of our Be Your Best celebrations that we had a few years ago, which is outside of my office in our big yard. And this is us doing some belly dancing and Zumba with a group of people who were there. You get a distinct feel for who we are by looking at this picture. You're not going to expect me to show up in a power suit if this is what's on my website, right? It's not me. It's not who we are. But if you like the idea of seeing a practitioner who will get out and make a bit of a fool of herself on a holiday with her clients and is okay with that and maybe doesn't take it too seriously, that might really appeal to you, right? You might also get the feeling that we're out in nature and that that's really important. It's one of our values of our business. You might notice the fact that there's little kids there and go, oh, she works with children, right? Those are all things that are important to me. This wouldn't work for somebody else. So how do you find the branding that's going to work for you? That's all stuff we can go over. Logos. So use of color, use of images, finding the things that work for you. And again, usually, oops, I got ahead of myself. Usually, I show several examples of logos, and you can take a look and see how different combinations of color and image make you feel, and what you resonate with, and where you fit on that spectrum of practitioners, right? So it can be a bit of a journey of self-discovery and figuring out what your business is going to look like so that it's really true and so that it brings people in to see you. And of course, if we're going to talk about branding and logos and things, we need to also talk about examples of things that aren't so great. So if you Google worst logo ever, this is what you get. This Chinese restaurant with the rising sun behind it. Don't let this be you. Sometimes you need to hire a graphic designer. Keep in mind that not all people are going to see it the way you do. I'm sure whoever signed off on this thought it was a good idea at the time. Getting into online presence a little bit and the idea of a website. So if anybody read my paper that I put in the conference journal, of the 100 professional members that are listed in the CANAS directory between BC and Alberta, only 30 have a website listed for their business. But in a study conducted, I'm going to read this because I don't ever trust people that can recite stats without reading them. I always feel like it's one of those, well, 87% of statistics are made up on the spot. 2/3 of all people know that. So I am going to read this one. In a study conducted last year with over 2,100 people in North America, 88% say that they read reviews online for local business before choosing to work with them. And of those, most will read 6 to 10 reviews before deciding to trust that business. So if you don't have an online presence, complete with reviews and testimonials, you're missing out. It's just that simple. And I understand that a lot of us don't want to put all of our faith and everything in technology because sometimes it feels like that's far, far away from what we believe in as practitioners. But this is how people are finding you now. So you need to be out there a little bit. And so this is something that we can discuss and we can work with, even getting down to the nitty-gritty of how do you find a domain, how do you register a domain, how do you get your web hosting figured out, right? So this is all stuff that we can work with. Now the GEMS website, I would love to hand to all of you as a resource that you guys can be using. It's fairly new. The website is gemskinesiology.com. And what I'm doing with it is trying to put some information up there with this idea that we're all in this together, right? So the kind of questions that I'm hearing from our students or the kind of questions that I hear in working with CANASC about, how do you do some marketing? How do you get this out there? How do I become a better practitioner? Right? We're putting little blog posts and things up there, and I really encourage people who have questions to go ahead and post it on there. And let's answer each other's questions. Let's blog. Let's work on it together so that as an industry we move forward and become more and more visible. Right? It's not my fault. It's okay. So we talk about social media. Social media scares a lot of people. We're not going to go through this right now, but we do in class. Some people will avoid that because it seems scary. Or worse than that, they use it inappropriately. Remember, what happens on Facebook stays on Facebook forever. Right? Don't post things that you don't want to have haunt you until you die. So there's different types of social media that are available to us now, and understanding how they work and what kind of information is good to be posted on them is going to make a difference in how you market. So I said, one of the strongest benefits to social media marketing is what they call the humanization factor. And what that means is for people to be able to see, again, the personality behind the business. That there's a real person there, right? It makes you real. It makes you likable. People want to see who you are. And they call this relationship-based marketing, and that's one of the big buzzwords right now in marketing is it's either content marketing or relationship-based marketing. And both of them really come down to the fact that you need to show who you are to people and allow them to choose to enter into a relationship with you, not just to come in and get your money, right? Now, again, in our business, because of the relationships we often develop with our clients, I think we're a step ahead of your average business with that, right? We do have relationships with our clients. I don't know about you, I get hugged like 20 times a day when I'm in a session, right? And so it's a little different than someone just opening up a store or something like that. But it still applies. People need to see who you are, what you stand for, and this is a really easy way of doing it. Facebook alone boasts 1.44 billion active monthly users. So that is a lot of people. And most people check this more than once a day, right? So we were discussing this morning because I have some clients where this is how they contact me. They don't call me. They don't pop by. They send me a Facebook message. That's how they prefer to communicate. It's on their phone. They can see it all the time. Whenever they're thinking about it, they send me a little message, right? And I book their appointments and I do their follow-ups via Facebook. It's not my preferred cup of tea. I would so much rather get on the phone and actually talk to them or meet up face-to-face. But that's what they want to do, and if it's what they want to do, and that's what's going to help them keep up with their program, then why not? I was also saying I've had several times where I get on and I check my Facebook in the morning and somebody's posted something like, killer headache this morning, must have slept funny last night, and you go, my 2 o'clock is open if you want to come on in. I've booked clients that way. Really, you have an opening? Yeah, I do. Come see me, right? I had a cancellation, come on in on Friday, whatever it is. So this is where your people are, okay? So it's okay to go to where the people are. And this is also a great tool for sharing events and for connecting with people from around the world. All of the associations have pages on here. You can connect with the people that you meet at a wonderful conference like this by being in touch through those groups. Something like Twitter, where you tend to share content in really fast little blips, right? And I don't know about you, I couldn't handle being one of those people that's like tweeting all the time. But I also know that I've been going back and forth with the people from the Touch for Health US Foundation for the last couple of weeks. And so I already know people there that I haven't met in person. And we've been sharing information about what Touch for Health is doing. And they were like, oh, Matthew and Arlene are going to be at the conference. You'll see them there. And they're great. And it's a way of keeping up with those people, right? And you'll notice that while the pictures and things that I'm using on those different sites are all different, they're also consistent to who I am and who the business is, right? LinkedIn is all about your professional business self. It's more where you post when you're looking to employ someone, when you're looking to put your services out there, when you're looking to maybe join up with another group of practitioners in your area, something like that. And Pinterest, which lets you share pictures and be a little more visual. So for people who are really creative and really visual, picture says what? 1,000 words, right? There are pictures under the Awesome Health Classes board here of myself with my level 2 students from June doing the can-can after we had finished doing class, because we had just come out of 6 days of class, everyone was just done. And someone taking the group picture said, you should all do the can-can, and it actually seemed like a good idea, that's how tired we were. But people see that and they get an idea of what those classes are, right? It feels a little different than just reading a summary on a website. So we also discuss in our GEMS class some of the more tangible things, like what do you need in your office? What needs to be in there for people to be comfortable? How are you going to take people's money? What are your options for that? And how do you price your services? Because that's something that people get a little bit of anxiety around, right? Yeah, a lot of us have issues around taking money for what we do. And the thing is, if you're going to make this into consultant regulations for Canada, because those are things that they need people to have if they're going to move ahead and really put themselves above that, we're using this for family and friends, right? And actually become practitioners. Okay? So what our students are saying, this is feedback we got after the very first GEMS class that we taught. And we've taught it a few times now. And the one that I really, really love is the one in the middle. And if people in the back can't see it, I'll read it out for you. It says, GEMS is the missing page from the Touch for Health manual that I've been searching for. And when he sent me that, I went, yes, that's exactly what I wanted this to be. I wanted it to feel like it belonged with the Touch for Health program. Not like I was trying to overhaul things or like something that was this weird stick-on reno at the end, right? Something that felt like an organic continuation of the brilliant work that John T. did. And what we have as his legacy and what we want to preserve, but also allow to take shape as we move into the future, right? So, with instructors, actually, I will back up for a second. If you are a Canadian member interested in getting your Touch for Health consultant status, it is possible for you to just take day 2 of this program. So if you're not interested in the flowchart stuff, you just want to do the practice management stuff to get your certification done, we can talk about that. It can be taught either as a standalone day, or you can join in with a class and just come for day 2, whatever feels better for you. For instructors, now one of the things I would really, thank you, Ishida, one of the things I would really love to see happen would be for there to be a lot of Touch for Health instructors that would take this on as their next thing. And what I'm trying to do for my instructor packages is I want to just support the heck out of you. Because as a new instructor, it's hard to market stuff sometimes, especially when it's someone else's material. It's like, I don't even know what to say about that. So when you take it on as an instructor, you're going to get the marketing materials, there's ads done up in it, you're going to have access to the website where there's information, we'll post your classes for you, all of that stuff. So that you really feel like someone's holding your hand and guiding you through those first few classes especially, so that you're really, really comfortable. So for more information, gemskinesiology.com, Happily Holistic, which is my business page.ca, or you can just call me up and go, hey, I'd like to talk a little bit more about that class, and I'm always so happy to discuss this. So Rashida was giving me warning timings back there. So does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you right now? Yes?
Where do you teach your classes for the GEMS?
Right now, our classes have been taught exclusively in Kelowna because that's where I am, and that's where the majority of my Touch for Health students are. But I love to travel. So if you have a group of people who would be interested in taking that, then I'm happy to come in and see a group of it. It's a new course, and so it doesn't have to be a huge group. If there's 8 or 9 people, that would be great. Because I really would like to start getting it out there more.
Right, I'll Facebook you.
Absolutely. Tweet it at me, Facebook me, pin it, I don't know.
No. Alexis, the GEMS, to be a GEMS instructor, the course is how many days long?
To be an instructor, if you're a Touch for Health instructor already, the course is only 1 day following the GEMS workshop. Because really, if you're a Touch for Health instructor, you don't need any training on where any of those points are or what any of those corrections are or anything like that. It's really just to go over the stuff about the business and marketing. And if you have a successful practice already, you probably don't need an awful lot of that information. It's more about how to go through the protocol and how to actually, we would probably do the class over the Saturday, Sunday, and do the Monday as an instructor training.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So thank you so much for your time. I do have some lovely GEMS bags. I told you guys that I had presents, right? I'm so happy people came this morning. So we're going to bring them out and hand them out to people as you're heading out. And thank you so much. I'd love to talk to anybody about it afterwards.